What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Breakdown Podcast. First one here in Latrobe. I'm currently in my hotel room. Busy day. Report day was today. So the guys all rolled in. Mike Tomlin spoke today. Newsworthy day. But the biggest thing by far today, bar none, was Najee Harris. Steelers running back broke his silence, didn't talk to the media in OTAs or minicamp after they had declined his fifth-year option. He had some things to say. Check out PennLive.com. We wrote a few things that he had to say about how he was disappointed at first and that they declined his fifth-year option, but it's a business. You have to move on. You can't mull on it. I thought the biggest thing that he said, he went on about the running back market and how they have no leverage, which obviously remains a big storyline, and how he wants to remain a Steeler and how he doesn't feel like running backs, including him right now, have any leverage, but they haven't really had any contract talks, and all of this makes sense, and all this is logical. But I thought the biggest thing he said was why they turned down his fifth-year option. And so Najee Harris's exact quote was, "Let me think." It was, they didn't know where the offense was headed. That was it. That is why they turned down his fifth-year option. Mike Tomlin was asked about it, said he wasn't going to add color to that statement. So that's really what you have to go by. Except there are some comments from before today that we have from Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin talked about it at OTAs, stating that it was more about a business thing. There are certain position values and other things. There's deep waters, there's layers to this decision. Omar Khan saying it doesn't preclude them from doing business with Najee in the future for an extension. However, it was a business decision they had to make. So you mash all these together, and what do you get? To me, folks, I said it a little bit yesterday, when John asked me about Najee Harris and what his future would be. He's going to have a big role in this Arthur Smith offense. He's going to. But what stands out to me is, one, I've always thought, Omar Khan and Andy Weidel were a little bit more inclined towards that positional value stuff, the analytics part of this, right? And I really do believe that. And you kind of look at their drafting strategy, and it continues to follow this trend to where they do believe in that. And it makes a lot of sense that they would believe in that, especially Omar Khan has kind of come from a cap guru background, a little bit more of a analytical twist to his kind of GMing style versus Kevin Colbert specifically. So it's definitely a thing that you see in Omar Khan's GMing. You look at the two offensive line picks, offensive tackle, back to back, and then you see kind of what he values premium players, right? If you're going to pay a linebacker $13 million, well, they better be Patrick Queen. And so it's premium players or premium positions. And I think Najee Harris falls into that cliff, unfortunately. Do I think 7 million for just slightly under it for him for a fifth year option was crazy? I don't. I think I would have picked up the fifth year option. I look at his game. He's been durable. He's been productive, maybe not efficient, but there's not a lot of guys that play 17 games a year at running back and give you solid production. And I think you can definitely argue that when you look at this offensive line and with more investment, he can give you that higher efficiency. So I think there's an argument to be made that they made a mistake turning this down, but I think that's their valuation. And I don't see any extension coming in training camp. Maybe it comes next year. Maybe, he hits the open market and the Steelers pay up and they're the best offer. Najee does want to stay here, and that ends up being, the perfect kind of marriage here. But right now, I don't see anything coming from Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, or Najee Harris that is signaling towards an extension. I really do. And so, when you talk about Najee Harris, looking at guys like Ramondre Stevenson, for example, getting $9 million a year, doesn't matter what your opinion is of Ramondre Stevenson versus Najee Harris. If I were Najee Harris, and I think Najee Harris is going to think similarly, he should think that he should get more than Ramondre Stevenson. And Ramondre Stevenson signed a 4-year, $36 million deal. The Steelers, if they just turned down a possible fifth-year option that would have been, $6.9 million, they are not going to give him 9 a year. And so it's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. And so I don't see it happening. So that's like a big takeaway for me is this isn't happening. Najee Harris's future in Pittsburgh is he will be a focal point of this offense. He's going to be a very, very important piece of this offense, along with Jalen Warren. The run game is the backbone of Arthur Smith's scheme. But I also think you have to look at it from a bigger point of view for the next few years. I think it's going to be tough to kind of see him staying past this year unless the market isn't super robust and he's going to have the best offer here in Pittsburgh. So I think naturally his comments point to a lot of things. I think you can argue that they made a mistake turning down the fifth year. I think he's a solid back. I don't think he's a great elite back. I think he's a solid back. And so you can make the argument, certainly, that the Steelers are making a mistake. It's not a crazy amount of money for a running back nowadays. Even got, look at what Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry got. I mean, that's not a crazy amount of money for the durability and production and dependability that Najee Harris gives you, the leadership in the locker room. But really, that's what his comments point to. I mean, he didn't say anything earth shattering. He's excited about Arthur Smith's offense, excited about Russell Wilson, and then their running back market. We know how much of a crapshoot that is. I mean, it really is. It is a really rough situation right now, and there's really no perfect formula to fixing what a running back makes. Right? It's proven via the kind of these numbers that they are less valuable, especially in the long term. In the short term, I think on the football field, I think you can argue that running backs are very valuable in the ways they affect games, the way they can dictate coverages through their running game. I think a dynamic running back makes a difference in your run game. Clearly, you see teams like the Eagles and the 49ers and the Ravens investing in running backs. I mean, there's a reason for that. But also, they're not going to get elite money in terms of, they're not going to get 20 a year. They're not going to get 25 a year. Like you're seeing some of these positions like guard, for example, just ballooning. But I think running back's not going to follow suit. I think there's enough numbers. You see the wear and tear on these guys. The fall off age for running backs is significantly lower. You could fall off at the age of 26, 27 versus, if you're a defensive lineman, maybe 30, 33. So the significant long term risk by signing a running back, we've seen it before really blow up in teams' faces. And so I think Najee Harris is just another kind of casualty of this, you know, thought and you see it play out. There's a lot of data supporting it. And so he really falls into that crevice. He's going to have, I think, a really good year. As long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to have a pretty healthy market. If he does it for a fourth straight year where he plays 17 games, gets over 1,000 yards, I think he's going to have a very nice market. I think he'll get paid pretty well. I really do. Even the efficiency, whatever you think of the efficiency numbers, right? Jalen Warren is off the charts with his efficiency numbers. I do think that Najee Harris is going to end up getting a nice deal in the market, and I think he's going to have a nice year this year too. I really do. I think Arthur Smith's offense fits Najee extremely, extremely well, and I don't buy the excuse that they declined his option because of the market, not because of the market, but because they didn't know what the offense was. I think more so it's about the market and those business plays in there, and it's all about the numbers, right? And so that's what I think this is more about than anything else. Nothing else kind of crazy came out of today. Mike Tomlin saying Cole Holcomb and Dean Lowry are on the PUP list. Cordero Patterson's on the non-football injury list. Cole Holcomb, we'll see where he's at with his knee injury. It seemed like Mike Tomlin was optimistic all three of those guys will come off those lists at some point here in training camp. Cordero Patterson specifically was day to day with his hamstring injury. So it seems like those are heading in positive directions. I thought when you talked about Russell Wilson today, held a really nice press conference, was talking about his weapons and went through, literally every single one. He was asked about the wide receivers, went through all the wide receivers, went through all the tight ends, went through all the running backs, and then proceeded to go to his offensive line too. So props to Russell Wilson for kind of giving his bandmates, if you will, on offense a lot of praise. But I think interestingly and kind of more importantly was he just continues to heap praise upon Calvin Austin. I mean, he really does. And the way he talked about Calvin Austin, how he gets in and out of routes, his speed, his route running ability, it sticks out. And I saw the same thing in the spring. I'm interested to see if it carries over here to Latrobe. Another one that I thought was interesting was TJ Watt, Troy Falatanu. First of all, Troy Falatanu wants to face TJ Watt, but I thought, that was a big time kind of, okay, I'm a rookie and I'm not going to be scared of that guy. TJ Watt up for the challenge. But I also thought, TJ Watt, this will go kind of under the radar, was talking about his training and kind of how he's taken off a little bit of some of his training and learned from JJ. You know how JJ Watt's career went, one of the best peaks of all time in a defensive player, and then obviously injuries kind of collapsed it. So TJ kind of taking notice of what happened and learning and trying to stay healthy, the durability factor. It's so important for him to stay healthy. And last but not least, I want to talk, Elan and Roberts showing up in the cowboy hat and the overalls, an ode to his home state of Texas, showing that he's ready to work. He's going to be a leader. I think people are sleeping on him. Everyone's talking about Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, and I understand why, or how's Cole Holcomb going to be when he returns. But Elan Roberts was really good. Not only was he a great run defender last year, which you knew he'd be, he was a pretty darn underrated coverage linebacker too. So lots to go around here on the first day training camp. Najee Harris, heavy, but tomorrow, first practice officially starts, and there will be more here on PennLive. There will be more here on the Steelers breakdown. We will have a full breakdown of practice. I will give you guys kind of my observations and what is going on out there on the field. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn the notification bell to see more. If you're listening to this on the channel, make sure to leave a review. Folks, thanks for listening. See you tomorrow.